Lestat episode 3, I rewatched it, and I am so struck by the vulnerability and openness of human Stott when he meets Nikki, and the way that he is trying to help Nikki and says his dad initially tell him I love him and whatever, and then Nikki laughs at him and says, no, what did he really say? Because he just absolutely does not believe it. The way that Lestat, as he's telling the story to Daniel, says that he fell in love with him immediately hearing the music, and just the way that Nikki's love absolutely consumed him. I mean, Lestat literally goes into ground for 100 years after Nikki dies because of how traumatized and sad he is when Nikki gets murdered, essentially, by Armand. And I think the telling of the story via telepathy is so smart, because even if he doesn't necessarily mean to, because he doesn't say anything about it, he's defending Nikki's memory the way that Claudia's memory was defiled in the book, and the way that Lestat's story about his maker to Louis in New Orleans was defiled in the book, as Daniel is reciting things back to him, trying to get Lestat to confirm things that Louis has told him. And Sam Reid in this episode is just so otherworldly, the way that he whiplashes through emotions, the way that this story of pure, almost innocent love is juxtaposed later in the episode with the very violent, obsessive monster that was his baker, who created Lestat against his will, and the assault, because that is what it was, despite the fact that Lestat doesn't want to acknowledge it until later, I think is just so good. But also, Damien Atkins, who plays Magnus in this episode, I think is very scary and portrays this obsessive fan, but also as this monster, because we get this initial version of Magnus from Lestat where he talks about, if I had seen 19 performances of my Lelio, I too would lose all decorum. He's trying to laugh it off and trying to play it light because he doesn't want to acknowledge that he was a victim. To some degree, continues to be a victim of it, because later on in the car, he has this absolute mental psychosis with hallucinating Agnes, and Magnus repeating some of the lines that we've heard Lestat say, ask for it, child, the light coming out of your blue eyes, and all of these things that he's saying as he's draining Lestat and draining the life out of him to make him an immortal. And just how violent it is, and I actually was kind of shocked that they showed the violence of that, because I didn't think that this show would, but that some of the violence of things like the Bruce assault that gets paired with this story via the narration and the reading of the diary entry from Louis to Bruce as he's committing murder is just such an interesting way to further pair together Lestat and Claudia, how similar they really were. And I loved ending the episode with The Loneliness, because I heard that song at the New York premiere when they did the One Night Only Vampire Lestat, and it was a great song then, but it is so much better in context. And the kind of release and elation that Lestat has as he has this realization that going through the muddy bottom, as he says, to the polished marble floors of propelling himself through all the muck in his psyche and getting through all of the trauma, because that's the only way to deal with it, is through it. The way that he ends the song with saying perfection and has this smile on his face, and it's a genuine smile for the first time this episode, as opposed to the heinously maniacal laughing that he was doing during the middle of some of the interviews. Sam Reid is so good.